Alrighty, now before the H4 closes, let's go through the new pairs for today, starting with GJ. Okay, so GJ, this H4 really just dropped down, but this was from the zone that I've marked since last week. Hence the power of engulfing and key levels. Okay, so from here, even I missed this portion, but that was 600 and close to 610 pips just from this H4 alone poking this key level before dropping. Now I think there's a JPY news going on, I'm not sure, but when I checked the forexfactory.com website, it did say the time was tentative, so this might be it. Alright, so we are gonna not mind this whole drop. Okay, I drew new zones. It broke this particular support on H4. Let me just adjust this like that. Okay. Oh, excuse me, I'm getting the sniffles. So it broke this support, hence it is, if H4 closes over here in 7 minutes, then this will be a new engulfing failed zone. Alright, then we have a buy zone down here. Why did I mark it? Because this was an engulfing sell that broke, price came back, created or closed within and just bounced up but did not create any engulfing buy. Then it came back again and then finally created the first engulfing buy. So you have your A and your B. Now we're waiting for a C. Okay? So I'm waiting for the H4 to close to see where it might want to go, and then I'll enter or try to find an entry in the next H4 or the more to come throughout the day. As long as H4 reaches any of the zones it closes within, and there are small time frames entries. Alright? So now that we know why we marked the zones, let's do it like this. Screenshot, what can GJ do? I'm gonna go through this quite fast. Again, if it drops down to our potential buy zone on H4 respecting it, meaning it closes within the zone, not below, then potentially it can bounce back up. But if it closes below the zone, then potentially we know it could go down even lower. Alright, vice versa, if it climbs up into our potential buy zone, because this is a newly fresh made engulfing fail, only if this H4 closes over here or where it's at, creating an engulfing failed zone, then potentially it could drop back down. But if it closes above this zone, then potentially it could go even higher. Okay, chasing this zone that it dropped from, a really hard drop, might I add. Okay, so that's for GJ. Where do you find your entries? M5 or M15. Wait for the setup to appear and form completely before you press it to lower your risks. Okay, so that's for GJ. Let's move on to the next pair. Excuse me. Oh my god, I'm getting the sniffles. USD CAD. Now again, these three zones are the zones that I've marked last week, and also we used some of the zones 2 weeks ago. Alright, so still very much valid. All the key levels can be used, but depending if they're a buy or a sell. So from last week, we marked this zone that was a sell. Then when price broke up, I told you that you can use the key level for a buy. And this is legit proof, right? As soon as it broke, price came back retraced, because I said the price can either shoot up in one go to the next level, and it did. It closed within this engulfing fail that I told you about. That if it broke this, then potentially it could be chasing this particular zone. And it did. It closed right there. So, oops. After it broke, price retraced back into this key level for a better buy up and drop back down. Now it's playing within these two key levels. It's going in a sideways. So if you want to enter, you can either enter from here for a potential sell if H4 closes within this zone and not above, or you can use this for a buy if H4 decides to still close within this zone and not below. Because once it breaks one of the zones, then it will just break up. If it breaks the sell zone, then potentially it could shoot up for a better buy. Then you can use this instead of a sell, go for a buy instead. Okay, that's how zones work. Price moves from zones to zone. Key levels can also be switched from buy to sell to buy, depending on the market. Okay, we're not being biased. We're not going to say this key level is only for a sell. No, what the market gives, you react to it. Okay, but you wait for the market to come to your zones before anything. We don't chase the market. Okay, so what can USD CAD do? Excuse me, my sniffles. Okay, if it decides to respect this zone, then potentially it could drop back down. But if it breaks it, then potentially it could go even higher. Vice versa, if it drops down into our potential buy zone and respects it, then potentially it could bounce back up. But if it breaks this zone, we know we have another zone down here. Alright, so like this. If it breaks the zone. Now where do you put your SLs? Again, 10 to 20 pips, I repeat, 10 to 20 pips above the sell zones or below the buy zones like this, or 40 pips from your entry. Okay, so I'm just going to write 40 pips from your entry, meaning when you enter or when you wait for the setup to appear in between the key levels, around the key levels, or just on the key level itself, you wait for the setup to appear in either M5 or M15. If you can get it more precise in M1, if you have more experience, go for it. But if you don't, I don't recommend you to look at M1 because there are a lot of noise. And if you don't have the experience of picking out strong candles, it will really wreck your account. Okay, so stick to M5 and 15. Once the complete setup is formed, you press, then you count 40 pips from there for your SL to allow the pair to move a little. Okay? Ooh. Excuse me. Oh my gosh, my allergies is really acting up. Okay, so that's for USD CAD. Last but not least, we have EJ. Okay, so I think the news is really damn, because even EJ, let me just see. That's close to 500 pips from EJ. It still respected this zone, closed within, and just dropped. Whoosh. Very strong drop indeed. 1 minute to go for H4 to close. Okay, so EJ. Again, these were the zones that I drew last week, 2 weeks ago. These are the two new zones, and why did I mark these? Because we have H4 just closed. So now this becomes a zone. This was for like future potentials, and now it just happened. So great. So we're going to focus on these two zones. I marked this. This will become our potential sell zone, and this will become our potential buy zone. Why? Because this was a previous support. Meaning price, so you can see over here, engulfing buy, price came back, respected. Did it create another engulfing buy? It did over here. Another engulfing buy that closed within the zone. So now you have engulfing buy meets engulfing buy. But when it became, when this H4 happened, because of the news accelerated the drop, it closed below. So now we have a potential our buy zone became an engulfing failed zone. And it's very fresh because H4 literally just closed below. So now the H4 can either drop the way down, all the way down in one go, or retrace back into the key levels that I've marked for a sell down. Okay? So this is our potential sell zone now. Now we have our potential buy zone. An engulfing sell that broke. Okay? And also still very fresh. So it's both a fresh engulfing failed zone for a sell up here and for a buy down here. Okay, so EJ, what can it do? Let's do it like this. Screenshot it. Okay, current price is over here. If it climbs up into our sell zone and respects it, meaning H4, closes within, or because it is a new fresh zone, sometimes it touches and go, especially for an engulfing fail. That just happened. So if it decides to climb up and you can find a setup in M5 or M15 for a sell down, you can enter before H4 closing, because sometimes on H4, after a newly formed engulfing fail, it will leave wicks like this, okay, touching the key levels and drop. Excuse me. So you can do that, but just know it is a higher risk. So everything comes with risk. It's how you categorize it and how you want to enter the market, knowing very, very well how much you may lose and the potential of gaining from it. Okay? So weigh out your risk, weigh out your rewards. I'm not telling you must enter. I'm just telling if you want to enter. These are the potentials. Okay? If H4 closes above, then potentially it could go even higher again, like this. But if H4 decides to drop down into our buy zone and respects it, then potentially it could bounce back up. But if it closes below, then we know it potentially could go even lower. Okay? So that's for all the 3 pairs. Let me just save this. Please trade smart, trade wisely. The week has only just begun. It's not midweek yet, so don't whack it too hard. All right? Manage your lot sizes, manage your account, and I'm going to get back to your messages. I'm really, really sorry. I have a bunch of messages since from the weekend that I'm still trying to clear out. I will get to you. Don't worry, okay? Have a nice day. Bye.